Super Bowl champions, we will always remember the Vince Lombardi Trophy is staying in Tampa Bay.
You know, my father had an expression. If you want to know the road ahead, ask the person who's been there. We found that person. 10 Super Bowl appearances, 7 victories, Tom Brady.
Let us bring in Tom Brady, Super Bowl champion for the 7th time. And Tom, you're also Super Bowl MVP.
How about that? I'm so proud of all these guys down here. The team had a lot of confidence. We came together at the right time. I think we knew this was going to happen tonight, didn't we? We ended up playing our best game of the year. Thank you all.
Tom, congratulations. And there's more to come, right, Tom? There's more to come as far as football.
Yeah, we're coming back.
We're coming back.
Know that.
Coming back. Tom Brady's coming back.
Let's go.
The Buccaneers are Super Bowl 55 champions, led by Tom Brady. Absolutely a player for the ages.
Good morning. Where's Skip?
Okay.
Oh!
Okay.
He's going to take in this moment.
You heard it. It's your day. You know what? I can't even be mad. I can't even be mad.
Here we go.
I can't even be mad.
There is one man in sports you do not bet against. Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr., who now has more rings than any NFL franchise. He's got 7 in 10 tries. I don't want to ever hear again on this show, Patrick Mahomes is better than Tom. No, he's not. The GOAT is the GOAT is the GOAT. Thank you.
You know what, Skip?
Start the show.
I can't even be mad at you today after what they did last night, that demolition. I can't even be mad, Skip. I want to be upset.
I'll just give you this. I like your bow tie.
Oh.
That's all I got.
That might be the only positive compliment we hear all day.
Yeah.
Skip, what an entrance. You deserve it.
Yeah,
We
you
talked
deserve it. He
all
deserved
things about the Super Bowl yesterday, so let's dive in.
Phone ring. I see D. Brooks pop up. And I was talking to him, and he's like, man, that was an unbelievable. You had to see it to believe it. I said, Brooks, I'm watching the game. And I said, it's going to be hard-pressed for me to see a scenario in which a defensive team had a more dominating performance over historically great offense in the Super Bowl than what I saw tonight. I said, if you go back and you look at the 86 Giants, Skip, what they did to the K-Gun and Jim Kelly, you go back and look at Coach Belichick's team, what he did against the greatest show on turf. You look at what the Bucs did against the Raiders. Rich Gannon was the MVP that season.
Yep.
Skip, there's nothing like this. Mahomes had never not scored more than at least 20 points. He was averaging 30 points in the games in which he started. He couldn't get the ball in the end zone. Skip, they didn't expect this. Nobody expected them to play exclusively cover 2. And the thing is about cover 2 defense, Skip, you can't throw a team out of it. You got to run them out of it. The defense was outstanding. Tom Brady did what he needed to do. Give the Bucs credit, Skip. I understand people say that's a home field. They could have played anywhere they wanted to play. If Tampa plays like they played last night defensively, they beaten Kansas City in Arrowhead. They beaten them on the moon. They beaten them in Africa. They beaten them in Russia. That was a total domination. Give the Bucs credit. Give Bruce Arians. Give Byron Leftwich. And Todd Bowles. If Coach Belichick got his game plan sent to the Hall of Fame in 1990 for what he did to the K-Gun and Jim Kelly, every piece of clothing that he had on last night need to be in the Hall of Fame. Because, Skip, that was as great a performance you'll see against a historically great offense in NFL history.
Now, back to the question. I'm going to try to calm down and answer this as objectively as possible. The single biggest reason the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl, and I can't believe those words just came out of my mouth, was that, number one, Bill Belichick pushed Tom Brady out the back door in New England. That was
Oh, you're going all the way back.
I'm going the biggest picture. You don't doubt the GOAT like that. You don't shame him publicly with stories from inside the Patriots that the whole coaching staff was down on him and thought it was time for him to go home and call it a career.
Right.
And then number two, out of nowhere, only 10 months and 14 days ago. Think about that. It was only 10 months and 14 days ago. Tom Brady shocked not just the NFL world, he shocked the sports world. He chose Tampa Bay, the Succaneers, who had the worst winning percentage for a franchise in all of sports. Tampa Bay, who hadn't made the playoffs in 13 years and hadn't won a playoff game in almost 20 years? Seriously? Yeah, he did that. There was no real offseason. There were 0 preseason games. And they tried to start to piece it together as Tom Brady tried to instill and install the Patriot way in Tampa Bay, as I began to call it. If you have the GOAT at quarterback and you have a lot of young players, especially on defense in the secondary, and Tom Brady is saying, we can do this, you're going to buy it.
Right.
And they started to buy in because they got talent. It just needed to be brought together to take off. Here came Mahomes. Here came the baby GOAT, if you want to call him, the kid that a lot of people think is already better, the greatest quarterback ever, greater than the GOAT Tom Brady. And what happened? Brady took it personally. He had 2 people that he wanted to show up last night, and that was Bill Belichick and that kid. Nothing personal, but he just wanted to show you, at 43, I will outplay Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, and he did. He had a QBR of 82 to Patrick's 50. Patrick had a long, hard night, and obviously all credit to the defense, all credit to Todd Bowles, but Tom Brady was magnificent last night, taking what the defense gave him. Because remember, Spagnuolo's had his number before in the first Eli Super Bowl. So what happened right out of the box? Well, Mike Evans is doubled. Chris Godwin is doubled. What if I told you on Friday, Mike Evans will wind up this game with 1 catch for 31 yards? You'd say, that's not enough. What if I told you Chris Godwin would have 2 catches for 9 yards? You'd say, boy, they're in trouble, right?
Well,
no, they were not in trouble because Tom says, okay, if you won't give me that, do you remember this guy named Gronkowski?
Yeah.
If you're going to single him all night, I'll show you what I can do with Rob Gronkowski, right? Is he too old? Watch this. And I thought it was very telling that Tom Brady said, I went and got 3 people for this team. I got Gronk, I got AB, and I went and recruited Leonard Fournette.
Right.
Were they not the 3 key pieces on offense last night?
And all those are the guys that scored your touchdown.
That's what I'm saying. They were the 3 featured players last night.
Tom Brady understands in a game of this magnitude, turnovers, you play double.
No risk.
I'd rather punt this football away than be a little late and it gets picked 6, goes back the other way.
Totally agree. Remember, Tom Brady led the National Football League in deep passing this year because that's what Bruce Arians does. He had led the league in deep passes, 20-plus yard completions in the postseason until last night. And what happened? Brady has no ego. He doesn't need to put up big numbers. He knows what it's all about. In the end, the only number that matters is 7, as in rings. The only numbers that matter are 31 and 9 on the scoreboard.
Right.
And again, he's going to give all credit to Todd Bowles and the defense, to Devin White and the defense. But he knew that it doesn't matter. He doesn't need to throw a party to win the Super Bowl unless it's necessary to do so. And it was not necessary last night.
Skip, and I told you this, what does Brady like to do right before the half? What is his MO, Skip, right before the half? He's going to take a shot play. He's either looking to get the big catch or a pass interference.
Always.
Every single time.
It's his trademark.
Jeez. And what did he do?
He got a pass interference on Breland, who was beaten on the play.
He was, Skip, first of all, I don't even understand why Andy Reid would even call a timeout.
We called 2 in a row.
First of all, Skip, if it's 3rd and 12, I get it.
Yep.
But you're going to call a first down 3rd and 2?
What's my favorite Tom Brady stat? He had won 6 rings with 6 game-winning drives in the 4th quarter overtime. Guess what? He finally had a Super Bowl blowout that did not require a game-winning drive. You can argue the game-winning drive came in the 2nd quarter.
The game-winning drive was when they went 7-3.
Yeah.
You know what the game-winning drive was, Skip? when Kansas City cut it to 21-9, and Tom Brady got the ball, and they went right back down the field 28 and said, y'all ain't doing nothing today. The day is our day.
Final point. I got really bad news for you Brady haters out there. You better get used to him.
He said he's coming back.
He said he's coming back. He said last week he might play, 3 more years. And they are set up for him to build a second dynasty in his career from New England to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom Brady did it. It is just...
it's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
He did it. He did it. All he wanted was Belichick to just throw his arm around him. That's it. That would have fixed it all.
Tell him he loved him.
That's it. He just wanted Belichick to say, look, man, it's been a partnership this entire time. And I know I drive you real hard, but I don't want to do it without you. How can I help you finish your career here in New England? Let's finish it out together. Let's ride it out. Okay?
Don't make me cry. Rick.
I'm telling you, this is...
I have no explanation.
This is all this is a large bunch of people in the know in New England are saying that would have fixed it.
Well, we talked about that after Brady ended up going to Tampa. Bill had all these nice things to say about Tom.
Right.
And you specifically said, man, why couldn't he just have said that like a month ago?
Right. All of that leads to where is he going to wind up? And it's Tampa. Because, he wanted to stay on the East Coast. That was the whole conversation that led to nonstop chatter. How's it going to work? How's it going to work now that there's a pandemic? How's it going to work that he doesn't have the time to work out with everybody? How's it going to work with Arians? How's it going to work with Byron Leftwich? How's it going to work with the verbiage? How's it going to work with the playbook? How's it going to work after he throws a pick 6 in week 1 against New Orleans? How's it going to work when he loses track of downs against Nick Foles? How's it going to work? That was the conversation after losing to the Chiefs in week 12. They go into the bye week 7-5. How's this going to work? Oh, we got an answer. Did lose after losing to the Chiefs in week 12. Now we have our answer. Unbelievable that the answer is he won it all again.
I plead the 5th.
No, he pleads the 7th, really.
Actually does. Yeah, I've got to change that.
He did exactly what NBA players do. I'm going to force my way out, and I'm going to create whatever super team to my liking, in the spot to my liking, and bring all my friends.
You started the super team, bro.
He did it.
And all of his buddies scored yesterday.
Every last one of them.
They all scored.
Did we give away GM of the year yet? Because
Jason Light is,
maybe Tom Brady deserves a vote.
Man,
everyone Tom Brady brought in did work.
It is unbelievable that the answer that comes out in the wash is he did it. He did it. And he did it against Breeze, who beat him. First quarterback to beat him twice in the same year. He did it. And then he does it to Aaron Rodgers, who gets MVP of the year the entire season. He deserved it. And then he beats Mahomes when Mahomes has an opportunity to go back-to-back. I mean, my God, we talked about it ad nauseum. He did it.
Don't forget Heineke, Rich, as you said earlier.
Don't forget Taylor Heineke.
Put that on a shirt.
But he did. I can't believe
it's unbelievable.
He did it.
So, Acho, are you more impressed with the Bucs or disappointed in the Chiefs?
Big dog, give credit where credit is due.
Please do.
Period.
Right to me?
To you.
Oh, okay. Let's start here.
But I can't fully give it to you. I'm going to get there later. But first person I got it, them Bucs, boy.
Wow.
Hey.
Wow.
Those Bucs, not only did they manhandle the Chiefs mentally, but they were prepared to manhandle the Chiefs physically.
Because a lot of times in our business, we don't like to say somebody got punked, because no punks are out there. But when you have two tough guys and one of them, by his will, actually dominates the other one who has greater skill, I will do my job and say, yeah, y'all got punked. I'm impressed by the Tampa Bay Bucs because the fact is they faced adversity square in the face all year long, despite naysayers like Acho, despite naysayers like Nick Wrong, like despite naysayers out there just telling them all year long, week 1 against the Saints, oh man, y'all taking the L. Then you look at them in week 9, losing to this team, and week 12, and then all those moments where they could have just tapped out and said, you know what, we're talented, but we're just that close, but we're not close enough. They responded to that adversity. The Chiefs all year long was playing with fire. And we thought it could never burn them. We saw in the postseason, they were still dominant. You kept telling me, oh man, this team was just bored. How bored they looked yesterday. Oh, they looked bored about the third quarter when they realized this is an L and we gonna take it.
I'm not mad at the Chiefs.
You're trying to protect your name and your rep.
Like when you get whooped so handedly, and it's not like the Chiefs played bad. Then the Bucs played a cleaner game. Then you out-schemed them as well. Tom Brady, 16 for 20 in the first half. 3 touchdowns, 80% completion percentage. Only time in Super Bowl history, 80% completion percentage, plus 3 touchdowns in the first half. I'm not gonna lie, Sel, like, I was shocked. And I was shocked not because I didn't read the warning signs. I was shocked because Tom Brady came out there and played like he hasn't played all postseason. I was shocked because the Chiefs came out there and they didn't necessarily lay an egg, but the Buccaneers just manhandled them. So I'm giving all credit to the Buccaneers more than I'm taking some away from the Chiefs.
I'm washing dishes at the end of the third quarter. That lets you know that there's a problem right now because our Super Bowl party of 5, I'm sitting there looking at this game like this game's a wrap. You become background noise to me in that sense. It turned into more Tony Romo jokes I was anticipating than watching the Chiefs go down there and get nothing for it. Patrick Mahomes is amazing. He's tremendous, but he has 2 losses in his postseason. Both of them to a chess master, the same guy in Tom Brady. I'm gonna share with my son something I learned from Tom Brady, even watching the game yesterday. You gotta start at square one, bruh. You gotta start at square one in life in terms of process. The Chiefs got too focused on achievement after the equal sign. How's it all gonna add up? Are we gonna be a dynasty? We going back to back, run it back as they kept wearing those t-shirts and talking about it all year? Okay. He showed me that he embodies what the process is, which is starting at square one. Let's talk about everything Tom Brady had to deal with. Tom Brady has to leave a destination that he's been in for 20 years, a system, 20 years, an identity that's now being renewed and really has to be restored somewhere else. He goes to a coach who's never won a Super Bowl. He goes to a situation where his offensive coordinator, my boy Byron Leftwich, who I chopped it up with this morning, actually was drafted after Tom Brady and retired before Tom Brady, but now is his offensive coordinator in authority. How crazy is that? Then he goes to that situation, looks around. This is Tom Brady, who has the most wins of any quarterback in NFL history, looking around at a franchise with the most losses in sports history. And he just looks at all this adversity, adds it all up and says, is that all? Is that it? Let's go. And he got to work, where I saw the Chiefs not getting back to work in the same respect. They skipped square one. Tom Brady went to square one because he knew it was a new situation, plus he knew what is the ingredient for my success. The most important ingredient, his main ingredient, is his focus, man. He focused on the details, where the Chiefs just focused in on the summation of what those details look like. So what I learned from Tom Brady is simple. No matter how great you are at anything, never think that you're a master of the first step unless you bring yourself back to that place. That's what I learned, and that's what I'm sharing.
I'm going to say Tom Brady proved to me he's the greatest winner of all time. We can talk about all other sports across all other centuries or decades, but it's harder to win now in pro sports than it has ever been, period.
Because of the talent?
Because of the talent and because of the parity. It is harder to win now than it has ever been. So Tom Brady, playing in an era where it's hardest to win, is now winning at a clip that we haven't seen, especially in the sport of football. Like, so he won in New England, and we was all wondering, hey, is it Brady or is it Belichick? Then he moves to Tampa. I had my doubts. Y'all all know I had my doubts. You didn't, but I did. I was like, ain't no way he about to come out here and win a Super Bowl. Ain't no way that'll happen. Not only does he show up in Tampa, but year one, no offseason, wins a Super Bowl. The winning, it goes where Tom Brady goes.
Yes.
That's what he proved, is like, it doesn't matter the circumstances. It doesn't necessarily matter the obstacles. If you throw me in the equation, then you are going to equal a championship or some caliber of excellence.
As soon as they won last year, it went off in my head like strike one. Because they kept talking about the future. They kept talking about dynasty, Michael Jordan, back to back, run it back. And Tom Brady, in all of his success, and he's the last guy to run it back to back. Never forecast running it back to back.
To get to the deeper point that you were just talking about, is this because of the defense or because of Tom Brady? I think they go hand in hand strictly because when Tom Brady was a free agent, there were some people that would get on your desk, Greeny, and say, there isn't really a market for Tom Brady out there. And all I was saying is, if you get Tom Brady into your building, everybody gets better. Equipment managers get better. Athletic trainers get better. Your defense gets better. There's no wasted reps. There's no corners that are cut when Tom Brady's there because you know you have a guy. And if you look at that Super Bowl yesterday, all the OGs that maybe went ring chasing down in Tampa made a big time play. The defense was humming, and Ndamukong Suh, a man who's been around and made hundreds of millions of dollars. He was hot on Patrick Mahomes' heels there at the end. It all goes hand in hand, and it's the Tom Brady effect. The defense was unbelievable. Patrick Mahomes not scoring a touchdown with that offense is something we never could have predicted, but I do believe it all is kind of tied in together whenever you got a guy who's the GOAT in 7 Super Bowls, Greeny. That was technically the only thing the Chiefs won all night, which was the coin toss. Okay. And then once Brady and the Honey Badger started chirping and you saw Brady actually getting animated with it, you're like, okay, this is the Chase Young situation again. You just don't poke the bear. You don't poke the goat. Even though they don't have teeth, they have the ability to go nuts. It was unbelievable watching them work, and I assume all of them want to be back, and that team's only going to get better and better as we go forward here down in Tampa Bay, Gronkaneer land.
Tom Brady didn't get any sleep last night, but I did. I slept pretty well because thanks to Tom Brady, I'll never again have to debate the greatest quarterback of all time. I won't have to debate that any longer. That debate's over.
Were you surprised by the beatdown that took place?
No, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. But I'm shocked because even with all of that being said, even with trouble on your offensive line at the right tackle and the left tackle, I don't give a damn about any of that. To be held to 9 points for the Kansas City Chiefs offense to not even get in the end zone one time, it was an absolute positive beat down. They got beat down. They got their ass kicked. Yeah. Period. I'm going to say it. It needs to be said.
I'll say this. I was not expecting it. I expected Mahomes to be Superman and the Chiefs to win. But I did think he'd need to be Superman to win. It was a mismatch on the line of scrimmage. A mismatch on the line of scrimmage. And Brady's not going to do you any favors like some of these other quarterbacks that Mahomes has faced in comebacks where they start making mistakes. He's going to cut the mistakes down when he needs to.
I would like to give a congratulations to Arthur Sears Herring, who's finally off the hook. He's the man who wrote Dewey Defeats Truman, and nearly 100 years later, finally somebody has a worse take. And it's my last 5 years of Tom Brady takes. So you're off the hook, sir. I now take that mantle for not just the lead up to this game, but for the last few years. Because everything that Brandon said the Chiefs needed to be worried about, they needed to be worried about, and everything that I dismissed happened. So I want to give the Bucs credit because I don't think it's about what the Chiefs didn't do. I think it's about what the Bucs did do. Big picture-wise, though, it is about Brady. And Brady coming to Tampa after his own team didn't want him back, after the San Francisco 49ers didn't want him instead of Jimmy Garoppolo, and after myself and, to be fair to myself, many others counted him out and laughed at him throughout the year, and talking about his bedtime and forgetting the downs and the inability to beat good teams. They were 7-5, they went into the bye week, and they have not lost since. So last night was a tour de force, majestic performance by the Tampa defense. The season is about what Brady brought to what had been statistically the worst franchise in sports and brought him to the Super Bowl, Brandon.
That front four was relentless. You look at the first half, what happened? They had to play run and they had to play pass. So that's why you saw Patrick Mahomes able to get out the pocket and pick up a few first downs here and there. But once they got the lead, it was lights out.
Nick, your guy, historically bad Super Bowl. His fourth worst passer rating in Super Bowl history. That's Patrick Mahomes. And this was the most amazing stat. Dusty gave me this one. Patrick Mahomes was chased for 1,000,000 yards. That's a real stat, 1,000,000 yards. And I know everyone's gonna be like, how could we see this coming?
The stat that you said 1,000,000 yards, the number is 497. Next Gen Stats had it.
Really?
That is the number of yards Patrick Mahomes ran on scrambles and sacks. Think about that. Nearly 500 yards either running backwards, side to side, back and forth, just trying to create time. And Brandon, they did it the exact way you said they needed to, which is without blitzing.
And I always thought it was more Belichick. I was sure it was more Belichick, but now I have to admit, I have to wonder, was it in fact more Belichick? Clearly I wasn't giving Brady enough credit. But we don't have 1,000 seasons to play out, to run perfect experiments to see who was who. This is pretty much as good as you could ask for. Brady's on a new team, Belichick's coaching without him. And by the way, if anything, the coach has the advantage because when the coach is older, he should still be good. Brady's 43. So the answer, does this affect Belichick's legacy? The answer is yes. He has to now win without Brady. He should win a ring without Brady before all is said and done, or his legacy, the great debate, is it more Belichick or Brady, shockingly to me, will be won by those who said, no, it was more Brady. Yes, this is a big deal.
But when it gets incredibly egregious, y'all, is when, as I reported and I told you last year, Tom Brady would have stayed if he believed he was wanted by Bill Belichick. But that was not the case. So Tom Brady was hell-bent on going elsewhere to prove what his value was. And you hear everybody collectively speak about the leadership ability of this dude and how he galvanizes everybody. What you have is a coach who's also the GM in New England that selectively decided to ignore that component. In other words, this is my program. We're going to do it my way. The hell with all of that. And when you do that to somebody that old who's produced for you and somehow you miss the leadership component that he brings to the team and how he's able to squeeze out whatever somebody else has left in them. But if you're an executive and your responsibility is to identify and then allocate responsibility to somebody else and you miss that, that's bad. In the end, what it comes down to is this, Max. Even though we still recognize Patrick Mahomes being the great quarterback that he is, but the issue is the GOAT. All of that stuff is over. It is over because here's the deal. It's not just about 7 Super Bowl championships to 1. Forget all that. Here's what it's about. No matter what you do in your career, you lost to the man considered the GOAT who beat you at age 43.
Mahomes was pressured more than any quarterback in the history of the Super Bowl, and he was blitzed almost less than any quarterback in the history of the Super Bowl.
But what I'm saying,
what do you want him to do?
Listen, what I'm saying to you, Max, is I am not refuting your points if the issue is that they lost, because we understand that wasn't his fault. I'm saying that when you're Mahomes and people are bloviating about you to the degree that they have, you can't go into the Super Bowl and get destroyed.
If there is such a thing as greatest football player ever, Tom Brady obviously sits atop that mountain. That's with respect to Jerry Rice, with respect to Jim Brown, with respect to Lawrence Taylor and Deion Sanders and Reggie White, whomever you want to call out there as possibilities. If there is such a thing as best football player ever, it's Brady. We all know the greatest quarterback ever is Brady. Even myself, who's picked against Brady repeatedly over the last few years, has never denied that he is the quarterbacking GOAT. Now, there was a question, could Patrick Mahomes catch him? Could he, with a win this weekend, be closer on his heels than the biggest Brady defenders would want to admit? But that's now a moot point, because now the gap between Mahomes and Brady is like the gap between Bob Beamon and everyone else after the '68 Olympics. It's not that it can't ever be closed, but when you break a record by 2 feet like Beamon did, you just say, okay, it's not going to be closed for years and years and years. Can Mahomes or someone else eventually become the greatest quarterback ever? Yes. Are they anywhere close to doing it right now? No. And 7-1, even if you don't subscribe to what Tony Romo said yesterday, which was essentially announce that Mahomes now has to win 8 Super Bowls to be the best quarterback ever. I don't believe that. I don't think it just should be a count the rings culture. He has a ways to go, but even if he had won, he would have had a ways to go. So that to me is not the most interesting conversation. The most interesting conversation when it comes to legacies is when we expand past just the NFL and we talk about the room Tom Brady joined. And that room is, I am the system. I am the winning. I am the culture. They are the system. They are the culture. They are the winning. And you know what? If you let them play a little general manager, they'll help you there too. You let them play a little coach, they'll help you there as well. Brady went to the losingest organization in NFL history, and they immediately won a title. Brady brought in Gronk. Brady brought in AB. Brady brought in the culture. And much like LeBron, Brady's team that he was on, that was competing for championships with him, all of a sudden, instantly became an also ring. As great as Montana was, he goes to a good Chiefs team, makes them a very good Chiefs team, they make the AFC Championship game, and that's it. As great as those guys were, their apex level of success did not transfer. The Bucs haven't made a playoff game in a decade. Brady gets there, they win the Super Bowl. The Patriots make the playoffs every single year. He leaves, they win 6 games. And that, in addition to ring number 7, is what Brady earned last night. Now, I said I'd tell you the 3 people in America today who should feel the worst. Number 1 is me. My team lost. My Brady takes look even worse than ever. I am, am I financially solvent? It depends on who you ask. But I'm number 1. Number 2 and 3, I believe, are Bill Belichick and Kyle Shanahan. Because Tom Brady wanted to stay in New England. He went to them for a contract extension prior to the 2019 season, and they refused to give it to him. And he said, really? Bill Belichick was going to be early rather than late, and Bill Belichick, and this is what I always keep telling myself, Nick, those Brady takes weren't that bad. Bill Belichick agreed with you on them. He saw a deterioration in skill set, and he said, I can't commit to this guy into his mid-40s. Despite the fact that what he had done starting right around age 40 was win a league, the greatest Super Bowl comeback in history in 16, win a league MVP in 17, and throw for 500 yards in the Super Bowl, go to another Super Bowl in 2018 and win. And even though that's what he had done, Belichick said, nope, NFL history, I know it, the cliff is coming. I'm not re-signing. I'm not giving you an extension. And so Belichick this morning has to be feeling some type of way. His boss wanted Brady back. The fans wanted Brady back. Belichick didn't. The other person is Kyle Shanahan and or John Lynch, depending on who the final decision maker was. Because there is a lot of very credible reporting that Brady's first choice was the Niners. And the Niners publicly flirted with him. They publicly talked about it. And they said, no, we're going to stick with Jimmy. And again, even though I'm not a huge Jimmy Garoppolo guy, I supported that decision. You're going to go with the guy 15 years older than your quarterback? You're going to go with the 43-year-old instead of the 28-year-old? Like, it made sense that they were sticking with Garoppolo. But there was something that made them uneasy, and it wasn't just the fourth quarter of last year's Super Bowl. And now where are the Niners? Quietly again opining about the future of their quarterback position, while Tom Brady took a team with a lot of similarities to the Niners to the Super Bowl and whooped the team that scored 21 straight on the Niners in last year's Super Bowl to win that game. So I'm in good company this morning amongst people that have to feel extra agita in their gut about what Tom Brady just accomplished. He settled on Tampa, and now they're all settling in as Super Bowl champions. So me, Belichick, and Kyle Shanahan, we all walk into a bar. One of them's got to pay, though, because I'm out of money.
Tom Brady proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that it wasn't all about Bill Belichick, that it wasn't all about the Patriot way, that me, Tom Brady, I had a ton to do with the success in New England, and I'll show you how. I'll go to a new place, I won't have an offseason, I'll change the team, I'll change the roster, and I'll change their fortunes. Tom Brady is the greatest player in team sports.
Well, I could put it more succinctly than that, Ryan Clark. Tom Brady's a better GM than Bill Belichick. You can actually make that argument today. You can actually make that argument today. Yeah, you can make that argument today. He's a better general. In 1 year, he proved he's a better GM than Bill Belichick, because while Bill Belichick is looking for weapons, Tom Brady was highlighting we didn't have any, and it was making me look bad. Not only did he win the game, but he won the game with Gronkowski shining. Gronkowski, a guy who literally was talking and had tears coming in his eyes and was shivering on a stage one day talking about, you have no idea what I've been through. And physically, emotionally, he didn't have it. And we sit around all the time when we talk about the NFL and we talk about the importance of leadership. And one of the greatest champions this sport has ever known, in Bill Belichick, ignored the champion and leader that he had in the end in Tom Brady. I mean, that's a story, man. Look, and that's a story.
We tried to start this conversation, because it's been good for football. It's been good for sports. It's reminiscent of the debate between MJ and LeBron. But how he did it last night, now it closes the door forever, Nick. I'm sorry. 7 Super Bowls, and then to beat Mahomes the way he beat Mahomes. Mahomes out there running for his life. Mahomes out there, throwing the ball all over the place. Even when he had time in the second half, he didn't look great. Now, I'll tell you this. Brady has probably ascended to the greatest of all time in all of sports. Just think about what he's done. He has the highest winning percentage, and I think I heard this from Romo last night on the broadcast, the highest winning percentage of any player in the 4 major sports. Tampa had the lowest winning percentage of any team in the 4 major sports. And in year 1, he takes them to the Super Bowl. But those guys in our locker room, when they see Tom Brady, they see hope, they see light at the end of the tunnel, and that's exactly what he did every single week this year, Nick.
So I agree with the majority of what you said, except for the very beginning, where you said it's closed forever. It's not closed forever, but what Tom Brady did yesterday by getting his 7th ring, it's Bob Beamon at the '68 Olympics. He has made the gap between him and second place so incomprehensibly large, it's hard to fathom it ever being broken. Now, Bob Beamon's record was broken. It took about 30 years, but eventually it was broken. And so forever's a very long time, and Patrick Mahomes is going to have a very long career. But right now, the gap is wider than it was when Mahomes stepped into the league. Brandon, the point you're making, which is what he does for the team Monday through Friday, the way he makes everyone believe more. I think you've talked about the pressure he puts on guys to do extra reps after practice, to work extra hard. That is where, I know it sounds odd, but that is where his fingerprints are even on some of the defensive success. His fingerprints are even on some of the offensive line success, even though those guys are their own men doing their own thing. But it's the faith they have in the ability to win and the pressure they have to commit to excellence that I think he instills obviously far more than Jameis did last season.
He's definitely the GOAT of football, 100%. That's done. You got to think about Drew Brees. You got to think about Peyton Manning. You got to think about Russell Wilson. You got to think about all these other quarterbacks that's come, made it to a Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, MVP this year. Look how hard it is for him to get back to a Super Bowl. So when we think about him winning 7, and then you have Patrick Mahomes out there, and then you have other guys that can potentially come along the way, it's going to be hard for them to do it. This dude is 43 years of age. We're talking about the injury rate in the National Football League. To me, it is done.
Brady came into the league with the 199th pick chip as a motivating factor. Then, because he instantly won a Super Bowl and a couple years later won another one, that gets removed for all intents and purposes. So what is he chasing then? Peyton Manning. The rivalry with Peyton that we know fueled him, and I feel a little dirty for having this information, but it's out in the public specter. That email he sent his dad at this point almost a decade ago saying, you know, about the rivalry with Peyton, about how Peyton was already almost done and he had 7 or 8 more years to go. He was still letting that fuel him. Once he clearly dispatched of Peyton and won that rivalry, what was left? Oh, how about the oldest battle in the book? You know, Father Time is undefeated? Maybe he's not. Now I'm battling aging. Now I'm battling how long the athlete can actually keep going. Oh, I broke all those records too? I already won a Super Bowl in my 40s? How about this new, fresh, real motivation? My coach didn't want me anymore. I went hat in hand for an extension. They gave me a fake one. I remember the summer of 19. Brady has the press conference. You're going to have to talk to Mr. Kraft. Then says, it is what it is. Gave that famous moment on the field. And the next day put his house for sale. And so he's always, Wilds, had either real or created external motivation. He's beaten Peyton. He made the draft look stupid. He set all the aging records. So now I do buy it is, okay, now I'm going to prove it was more me than Bill. 100% I believe it.
Yeah. I buy it too.
And Tom Brady felt, haven't I earned that? Haven't I earned the benefit of the doubt, not only through my play, but to Brandon's point, through my sacrifice, financial sacrifice, and ego sacrifice? You can't just step out on the limb with me, take a leap of faith that what I'm saying about playing till I'm 45 is right. Brady wanted Belichick to believe in him the way Brady believes in himself. Belichick wouldn't, so of course he has something to prove there, because Belichick clearly did not think he could do this.
You also dug yourself very firmly in this hole, and I will say, I have suffered at the hands of Tom Brady probably more than you over the past 20 years, being a Dolphins fan and having grown up in Pittsburgh. So I've suffered a lot, and I chose to make a good life decision after he won against the Atlanta Falcons in the most spectacular fashion we've ever seen in a Super Bowl. I decided I was no longer going to live a life of saying that Tom Brady wasn't the greatest to ever play that position, because he clearly is. And even though I picked the Chiefs to win yesterday, I made that pick with no conviction. So I'm not suffering the way that you are. I can relate to it, obviously, because I've been through it, but I'm not suffering the way that you are. Because I make better choices.
Well, I am going to... okay, yeah, sure, you make better... You know what I did after the Falcons Super Bowl? I also called him the greatest ever, and I said, it ends here. And how much better would all our lives be if he had just rode off into the sunset and retired right then and there? It would have been great. He'd had the 5 rings. It would have been fine. It had been over.
The Chiefs' loss was so dramatic in fashion that I don't think you should actually feel that bad about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. The problem is, while no one predicted the Chiefs to lose that way, the way that game went is exactly how I predicted, just 100% wrong. I did predict a blowout. I did predict one team to look awesome. I did predict one quarterback not to have any touchdowns, and I just had it all wrong, which is why I now pay my penance, do my rosary beads, by giving Tom Brady fans this, okay? I said a couple years ago that Tom Brady and Jerry Rice were the only 2 NFL players ever that if you bisected their career, if you cut it dead in the middle, they were a first ballot Hall of Famer on either career. That they had 2 separate Hall of Fame careers, the first half and the second half. After last night, I have to amend that take. Tom Brady becomes the first football player ever, and this one I'm confident he will be the only football player ever. He has had 3 distinct Hall of Fame careers, and I can prove it to you. He's played 21 years, cut his career into 7-year bites. First 7, middle 7, next 7. No funny math, don't have to do any twists and turns. Let's just look at it. So that first 7, let's call that the Aikman phase, where the numbers aren't overwhelming, but is the best clutch quarterback in the league, is not a game manager in a negative way, but the best version of a game manager. Tom Brady's first 7 years, almost the same amount of division titles, same number of Super Bowls, 1 more Super Bowl MVP, neither won a regular season MVP. So Tom Brady's first 7 years, first third of his career, that's the Troy Aikman phase. That, in and of itself, by itself, gets you into the Hall of Fame. Now give me the next 7 years. This is the Dan Marino phase. Division titles about the same. Super Bowl appearances, Brady has more. Regular season MVPs, Brady has more. Passing touchdown leader, Marino by 1. Also, in this 7-year stretch, Brady had the 07 season, where not only are you undefeated and go 6-0 in the regular season, quarterback statistically speaking, it was up to that point in time the single greatest quarterbacking season ever. Whose record did he break? Marino's. The touchdown record, all the records he broke that year was Marino's. So those middle 7 years, where he went to 2 Super Bowls but didn't win any, he accomplished in those 7 years, as far as the big shiny object accomplishments, what Marino did in his entire career. And now the truly unfathomable part, the final third of his career, the Joe Montana phase. From 2014 to now, 4 rings to 4 rings, 3 Super Bowl MVPs to 3 Super Bowl MVPs. Brady has 1 regular season MVP in the stretch. Montana had 2. Montana also went to another team, just like Brady did. Montana took that team, the Chiefs, to the AFC title game. Brady took his team to the damn Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl. Brady also, if we were to add another line, Super Bowl titles is 4 apiece to 4 apiece, but Super Bowl appearances would be 5 to 4, because in these 7 years, Brady went to another Super Bowl, the one against the Eagles, where he threw 505 yards and lost the game. So think about that for a moment. Tom Brady, first 7, middle 7, next 7. And if you saw me swallow hard, it's because I'm choking down the bile that I'm feeling just by having to say this. First 7, middle 7, next 7. Hall of Fame first ballot, Hall of Fame first ballot, Hall of Fame first ballot. The first 7 years, the Aikman phase. The middle 7 years, the Marino phase. The next 7 years, the Montana phase. That, my friends, we will never see again. Everyone already acknowledges he's the greatest quarterback ever. I've acknowledged that for a long time. I just foolishly thought he was done. When he threw the pick 6 against Tennessee, I took my victory lap. See, I told you so. And then he shoved that victory lap, well, you know where. So there it is, Tom Brady. I doff my proverbial cap to you. Some would say I doff my proverbial clown suit that I'm wearing to you. You got it done again. And you got it done under circumstances that I did not think were possible.
I know some coaches down there who coach in Indianapolis, and we've been talking all season about Tom Brady, and they're back in the bus, and somebody makes the comment to Tom and Gronk about, hey, how does it feel being in your first Super Bowl without scandal? You know what I mean? Like without any issues. And they said both those guys laugh and they love it, and they look back and like, how does it feel to be in your first ever playoff win? You know what I mean? So the banter going back and forth is just a thing of beauty, and that humility that he plays with and that he kind of ingratiates to his teammates is just fantastic. That he's just one of the guys, that he's not an NFL superstar quarterback who's got too many things going on that he can't go get with his teammates. It's those things, Greeny, that change the culture in organizations. And like you said, when Bruce Arians said, hey, he's a winner, he's done this before. No, he hadn't done it before. He's done it 7 times, right? Winning it, not getting there, been there 10. How important is that? How much credibility does that give that man in that locker room, and how everybody else pulls off of that? Man, just incredible stories, and that's the defining moment of who Tom Brady is.
The main priority is winning in that league. Like, I don't want people to get it twisted. You could be all the leader you want to be, but if you're not out there doing your job at a high level, the words are just not falling on people's ears the same. And the fact that you have a guy that's going to come in where you know you can win with. You don't hope to win with him. You know you can win with him. And everybody plays with a little more juice when you have that guy. Everyone, it permeates through the whole team. The coaching staff, the people that work in the support staff, it changes the dynamic of everything when you know you can win.
So, you know, as I watch that, so much of what we do, not just me, but you, we watch sports, and then we observe something, and then we have an opinion on what we observed. And as I sat there watching it from a hospital bed, sweating, as part of the medication, notes, no distraction, I'm fascinated with Tom Brady. And I always have thought he's a great leader, but it's beyond that. There's a lot of great athletes, lots in all sports. There's a handful of great leaders. And then there's this inspirational thing that you can't quite quantify, where you know, it's the you don't want to disappoint somebody. Brady has the rare ability to play poorly in stretches. 3 interceptions second half at Lambeau, and he never loses it. He has an ability to not be the most important person in the game. Super Bowl, it was the defensive front for the Buccaneers, and yet he never loses it. That so much of what Brady does is hard to quantify. Brady did something with the special teams in Tampa that's hard to fathom. You watch football, I watch football. For the last decade or more, Tampa's special teams have been a tire fire. But yet in the playoffs, often on the road, they were really strong. Tampa's offensive line, as Tom joined the team this year, was middle of the road. Nobody thought they were elite, yet they went to Green Bay, Kansas City. They were a dominant unit against the Chiefs' defensive line. Ali Marpet's a guard, went to Hobart. Came out 12th best guard, 13th best guard, 12th best guard. After Quentin Nelson, is he the second best guard now? Tristan Wirfs was the highest graded player, right tackle in the Super Bowl. Ryan Jensen, the center. Who's better at that position than him? That offensive line was middle of the pack last year. I'm not blaming Jameis Winston. I'm saying is Derek Jeter was a great leader, but he couldn't take a 265 hitter and have him hit 300 in the playoffs. LeBron's a great leader, but he never could make Kyrie Irving a great defender. Tom Brady made Tampa's offensive line a powerhouse. He took their awful, unreliable special teams and down the stretch made them a strength. So that's beyond leadership to me. That is inspiration, and so few do it. And Brady has the ability to play poorly in stretches, to not be on the field for long stretches, to not be that important at individual games, and yet he is inspiring other players. This was not a talent story. And to prove it, go back to week 13. Nobody would argue what I'm about to say, including the Buccaneers. There was a lot of turbulence until about week 12 or 13. Nobody thought this was a Super Bowl team in week 10, 11, 12. Then they had a bye. From that point, that late season bye, they went 8-0. Dominant offensive line. Better than average special teams. Run game. So in that moment, when they finally, no preseason, they finally got Tom in season for 10 days of practice and inspiration, it totally changed the football team. Of course they weren't good in September, October. They had no preseason. It wasn't until they got a bye at the end of the year or near it, and Tom could teach and mentor. That goes beyond leadership. And so much, you always hear stories about people only use 10% of their brain, with rare exceptions. You hear stories about people can lift a car or lift weight. That's not about leadership. You're being inspired by something. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's the fear of losing a child. Maybe it's the fear of gaining something. Whatever it is. When I sat in that hospital bed and I watched that game, so much of what we all do with football is watch, observe, and comment. And so much of what Brady does is not on television. You can't quantify it. And you're going to see all these teams. There are going to be so many teams. Rams with Matt Stafford. Watch the Bears go pay for Carson Wentz. And the Jags are going to draft Trevor Lawrence. And they think it's going to be this magic elixir. It's going to solve all their issues. And they may be better at quarterback. But the big arm and the mobility and all the hype, I can see all that. What Brady does, I often can't.
I think the other big note I saw yesterday from Brady, what he proved, and it transcends football. You can be excellent at your craft if you take it seriously. Now, we praise Tom Brady because he's a football player and it owns one day of the week, so we all know just how excellent he is. Right. But I think Tom Brady, he showed a lesson to everybody at home watching the game. Take your craft seriously enough, and excellence will find you as you will find it. I mean, think, Sal, like, he's more passionate about the game than he's ever been. How you out here in an arguing match with Ty Matthew? Everybody know Ty a little bit crazy. Like, we all
that badger came back.
Like, Ty a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady not backing down at the age of 43 from a shout. Whatever they shouting about, Tom Brady's like, nah, I'm about that action too. You know what I'm saying? I might not have grew up where you grew up, how you grew up, when you grew up, with who you grew up, but I'm about that action too. I'm just as passionate about this game as I ever have been. So he showed me a lot last night, Tom Brady did. But I think the most important thing he showed was if you take your craft seriously, excellence will find you like it found him.
I want to take a moment to give a personal thanks to Tom Brady. And here's why. You know, for him to achieve what he has achieved, you know what? When you say stuff like this and you throw out nuggets of material like that, conceivably you could charge for it. Give a speech, show up for a public appearance, a paid speaking engagement or something like that. But to just do an interview and to say something that appears relatively generic, but is so applicable to the lives of hundreds of millions of people. 20 years in, he makes a change and goes out and succeeds. Think about how powerful that is. And I think that it's incredibly important to really extend a hand to him, a hand of gratitude that he reveals something like that. It's not in depth. It doesn't appear that deep on the surface, but it's so deep. Well, Tom Brady took it to another level, and that's essentially what he's talking about. So I think it's a lesson for everybody to learn. Don't be afraid of change, particularly when it's really the environment that you're talking about, as opposed to you completely going into a different direction and doing something totally different than you've been doing. He's still playing football. It's just for a different team. And he wasn't afraid of change. And as a result, look at him. He's officially the GOAT. And I think it's something that we should all just step back, take a moment, and really say to Tom Brady, thank you so much for letting us know that. Because it's going to give a lot of other people courage to make change in whatever stratosphere they're living in.